One of the most popular snacks in Vietnam is something that surprises many Western visitors: chicken feet. And Vietnam isn't the only place where they're loved. In China, chicken feet are incredibly popular as well. In fact, China's appetite for chicken feet is so massive that it has created a multi-billion-dollar global industry. China is home to more than 1.4 billion people, and every year, the country consumes an estimated 30 to 35 billion chicken feet. That's over 80 million chicken feet every single day, or nearly 1,000 chicken feet every second. The demand is so enormous that China's domestic poultry industry simply can't keep up. To satisfy consumers, the country imports hundreds of thousands of tons of chicken feet from nations such as the United States, Brazil, Russia, Argentina, and many others. What's fascinating is that while billions of people in China consider chicken feet a delicacy, much of the Western world has traditionally viewed them as a low-value byproduct. That difference in taste has created an extraordinary business opportunity worth billions of dollars every year. China wants the feet. America wants the breast meat. And poultry companies are happy to profit from both. But this raises an interesting question. If China consumes so many chicken feet, why does it still need to import them? And what about those shocking stories claiming that decades-old chicken feet have somehow made their way into the market? To understand that, we first need to understand why chicken feet are so popular in China. Different cultures value different parts of an animal. In many Western countries, the value of meat is often judged by how much lean meat it contains. Cuts that are tender, meaty, and easy to eat are usually considered premium products. Chinese food culture takes a very different approach. For centuries, Chinese cuisine has emphasized using nearly every part of an animal. Skin, tendons, cartilage, organs, many parts that Western consumers might overlook are highly appreciated. The appeal isn't just about the amount of meat. It's about texture, mouthfeel, and the eating experience itself. Chicken feet are perhaps the perfect example. They don't contain much meat, but they offer soft skin, rich collagen, tendons, and crunchy cartilage. Together, these create a unique texture that many people find incredibly satisfying. In Guangdong, for example, steamed chicken feet have been enjoyed for generations and became a staple of traditional dim sum culture. People would sip tea while slowly enjoying chicken feet, much like how some people enjoy peanuts with a cold beer. Over time, what began as a regional specialty spread across the entire country. Today, chicken feet are so respected in Chinese cuisine that they are often called phoenix claws, a much more elegant name than simply chicken feet. The term alone shows that many Chinese consumers don't view them as cheap leftovers. In many restaurants, they are prepared with just as much care and attention as any other signature dish. Western travelers often wonder why anyone would enjoy a food with so little meat. The answer lies in the experience. People who love chicken feet aren't eating them to fill up. They enjoy slowly savoring them. Each foot contains layers of skin, tendons, and cartilage that create a rich variety of textures. When cooked properly, the result is surprisingly enjoyable. It's similar to why some people enjoy pig ears, beef tendons, or chicken cartilage. The value isn't in the amount of meat, it's in the texture and the sensation of eating it. And for millions of people across China, Vietnam, and much of Asia, chicken feet are exactly the kind of snack. What makes the chicken foot market particularly interesting is a simple law of nature. Every chicken has exactly 2 feet. No more, no less. A farm can raise larger chickens to produce more meat. A processor can increase the yield of breast meat, wings, or thighs. But nobody can create extra chicken feet. If you want 1 million more chicken feet, you need to raise another 500,000 chickens. As China's population surpassed 1.4 billion and hundreds of millions of people developed a taste for chicken feet, supply and demand inevitably collided. Demand began growing faster than supply. As a result, chicken feet have occasionally become more expensive than certain cuts of chicken meat in China. From a Western perspective, that may sound strange. In China, it's completely normal. If chicken feet are considered a treasure in China, the story is completely different in the United States. Americans are among the world's largest consumers of chicken. On average, each person eats more than 100 pounds of chicken every year. But most consumers focus on chicken breasts, wings, and thighs. Chicken feet rarely make it onto the menu. For decades, American poultry companies faced a unique problem. After processing millions of chickens, they were left with enormous quantities of chicken feet that had very little value in the domestic market. Many were used in animal feed, processed into byproducts, or simply sold for very low prices. Then China entered the picture. American producers quickly realized that something considered nearly worthless at home was highly prized overseas. Suddenly, millions of tons of chicken feet began crossing the Pacific Ocean toward Chinese ports. For the U.S. poultry industry, it was like discovering a new gold mine. A product that once generated almost no revenue was now bringing in billions of dollars. Many economists point to chicken feet as a perfect example of how cultural differences can create massive business opportunities. One country's leftovers can become another country's delicacy. And nowhere is that more evident than in China. Over the years, chicken feet evolved from a traditional food into an entire industry of its own. Walk into a supermarket, convenience store, airport, train station, or even a vending machine in China, and you'll likely find shelves packed with chicken feet products. Spicy Sichuan chicken feet, pickled chicken feet, smoked chicken feet, honey-glazed chicken feet, barbecue-flavored chicken feet, and countless other varieties. Some packages are marketed so professionally that they look more like premium snack products than something that came from a chicken. Major Chinese food companies sell billions of individual packs every year. Some brands generate hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue from chicken feet alone. For many young Chinese consumers, grabbing a pack of spicy chicken feet has become as normal as buying a bag of chips. At this point, chicken feet are no longer just a traditional dish. They've become a major part of China's modern snack food industry. But what about those shocking stories you've probably heard online? The ones claiming that 20-year-old, 30-year-old, or even 40-year-old chicken feet were somehow being sold to consumers. This story exploded across international media roughly a decade ago. Chinese authorities uncovered several large-scale frozen meat smuggling operations. Among the seized products were chicken feet, chicken wings, and various cuts of beef. Some headlines quickly claimed that authorities had discovered 40-year-old meat. The story spread around the world almost overnight. Many people imagined chicken feet that had literally been sitting in freezers since the 1970s before finally reaching supermarket shelves. But the reality was far more complicated. Investigators mainly found frozen products that had expired and been illegally smuggled through multiple countries. Documentation had been altered, labels had been changed, and shipments had been repeatedly moved from one location to another over extended periods. Because some records traced back many years, certain media outlets exaggerated the story into claims of 40-year-old meat. In reality, keeping chicken feet frozen for 20 or 40 years would make very little economic sense. The electricity costs alone would likely exceed the value of the product itself. No normal company would intentionally store a shipment of chicken feet for decades while waiting to sell it. Simply put, the infamous 40-year-old chicken feet story was largely a media exaggeration built around a real smuggling scandal. The actual issue wasn't decades-old chicken feet. It was expired frozen products being moved illegally through complex supply chains. And as often happens, the headline became far more famous than the facts. So, does China actually export chicken feet to Vietnam? The answer is yes, but there's an interesting twist. China exports relatively few raw chicken feet. What it exports in much larger quantities are processed chicken feet products. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Many of the chicken feet being exported from China didn't originally come from Chinese chickens at all. They may have started their journey in the United States, Brazil, Russia, or Argentina. Chinese companies import frozen chicken feet from around the world, process them with seasonings and sauces, package them into consumer products, and then export them across Asia, including Vietnam. In other words, a single chicken foot can take a surprisingly international journey. The chicken is raised in Brazil. The breast meat is consumed in America. The feet are shipped to China for processing. And the final packaged snack ends up on a store shelf in Vietnam. It's a remarkable example of how interconnected the modern global food system has become. Among all of China's suppliers, Brazil has emerged as one of the most important sources of chicken feet in recent years. And that's no accident. Brazil has one of the largest poultry industries in the world. The country benefits from abundant agricultural resources, vast land areas, and relatively low production costs. These advantages allow Brazilian producers to raise chickens at enormous scale and compete aggressively in international markets. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tons of Brazilian chicken feet are exported to China. For many Brazilian poultry companies, the Chinese market has become extremely profitable. Products that many Western consumers barely think about have become valuable export commodities worth millions of dollars. This reveals one of the most interesting realities of the global economy. Something considered a low-value byproduct in one country can become a highly sought-after delicacy in another. And those differences in culture, taste, and consumer preferences create entire trade networks worth billions of dollars. When you look at a chicken foot, it might seem like one of the least important parts of a chicken. But behind that tiny product lies a fascinating global story. A story of culture, a story of economics, a story of international trade. Today, China consumes more than 30 billion chicken feet every year, making it by far the largest chicken feet market on Earth. To meet that demand, hundreds of thousands of tons of chicken feet travel across oceans from countries such as Brazil, the United States, Russia, and Argentina. And the next time you see a package of seasoned chicken feet in a supermarket, there's a good chance the chicken wasn't even raised in China. It may have started its life on a farm thousands of miles away in Brazil, America, Argentina, or somewhere else entirely. What appears to be a simple snack is actually the final stop in a complex global supply chain spanning multiple continents. And perhaps that's what makes the story so interesting. Because sometimes the most ordinary products reveal the most extraordinary connections between cultures and economies around the world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share the video with someone who might find it interesting. And until next time, thanks for watching.